herbs for the service of man. There is a book called Back to Eden by Jethro Kloss. I think it was written in about the 40s. He devotes half a page to every herb, and he devotes 10 pages to cayenne pepper. It's a powerful herb. So there's no need to take the aspirins that are going to cause eye, brain and stomach bleeds. Every drug has a side effect. Do you remember that statement I gave you last night by Ellen White? Drugs never cure disease. They just change the form and location of disease. The body alone is the effective healer, and if left to itself, how much better could it do its work? Give it the right conditions and watch what it does. So you've got your blood thinners. What about cholesterol-lowering medication? What is it? Well, your liver makes cholesterol. So cholesterol-lowering medication blocks the pathway in your liver that makes cholesterol. That's how it gets the cholesterol levels down. But we need that cholesterol. Our brain needs that cholesterol. So it's probably not a surprise to you to hear that the side effects of cholesterol-lowering medication, Lipitor and Crestor are probably the two most common, all your statin drugs. The side effect of this medication is Alzheimer's, dementia, memory loss, and they've just added another one, it's called breast cancer, because our sex hormones are made from cholesterol. Now, if you are on cholesterol-lowering medication and you make a decision to stop, and by the way, only two people have authority over your medication, you and your doctor. And if your doctor says no and you decide yes, you're the authority. You live in this body. If you stop your cholesterol-lowering medication, there will be a side effect. I'm just warning you. Your memory will return. How many people blame memory loss on age? No. Our brain should be getting smarter and wiser with age. Many are developing Alzheimer's because of cholesterol-lowering medication. And if cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease, there's no need to take this medication. Can you see that? But what that cholesterol-lowering medication also does is it blocks the pathway in the liver that the liver uses to make coenzyme Q10. Your liver makes coenzyme Q10, but if you go on cholesterol-lowering medication, it'll block that pathway. Now, that's your heart protective enzyme. So someone can go on cholesterol-lowering medication and increase their risk of heart disease. The Framingham Heart Study. This is a study that was set up to prove that cholesterol and saturated fat cause heart disease. Little town of Framingham in America, been going for 30 years, 30,000 people, some die, more come on. But it hasn't proven that cholesterol and saturated fat cause heart disease. Do you know why it hasn't proven that? Because it's not true. But do you know what it has shown? If people have high cholesterol levels, they don't get Alzheimer's. Do you need a moment's silence to digest that one? People with high cholesterol levels don't get Alzheimer's because what does your brain need? Fat. The fattiest organ in the body, and it loves fat. I have a book in my library by he's a doctor and an astronaut. And when he was in his 50s, he went to have his yearly checkup, and the doctor said, your cholesterol levels are a little bit high. I want to put you on some meds to get it down a bit. So he went on Lipitor. And the reason he went on Lipitor was this: fear. Because the doctor said he could have a heart attack. No one wants to die. We should never make a decision on fear. And what has God said in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7? I have not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Do you know what a sound mind does? Considers these things. We should make decisions on this fact. That's why if your doctor says, you're going to take this or you're going to die, you know what you say? Thank you so much for your advice. Take the script and leave. There's no need to have a discussion. He doesn't know the power of cayenne pepper. He doesn't know the power of this New Start program. And then you go back 3 months later, wow, all your levels are balancing out. And maybe then you can tell him what you've done. And so this doctor, astronaut, author, went on Lipitor. 6 weeks later, his wife found him outside in the garden. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know where he was. Went to the doctor that gave him some fancy name. Went home. And in a lucid moment, he wondered if it was that drug, because it was the only change. It was the only thing that had changed in his life. So he stopped the Lipitor. Within 2 weeks, his mind was very clear. 10 months later, went back to the doctor, had another blood test. Doc said, oh, your cholesterol levels are a little bit high. I want you to go back on Lipitor. And he said, no way, I nearly went mad on that stuff. Doc said, that's very rare. Why did the doctor say that? Because that's what the pharmaceutical companies tell them. I don't think doctors lie, but I think the pharmaceutical company does. It is not totally truthful. I'm sorry. He said, no way. Doc said, well, just half dose. Half dose will be all right. And I don't want you to have a heart attack. So he went back on it again for fear, but he only went on half dose. 6 weeks later, his wife found him out in the garden, didn't know who she was, didn't know where he was, didn't know who he was. He stopped the med immediately. Within 2 weeks, he's clear. He wrote his story and sent it into a social media site on drug side effects. When they saw it, they went, wow, can we put this out there? He said, be my guest. Within the hour, thousands of hits. The same thing happened to me. How many people have Alzheimer's, dementia and memory loss because of the cholesterol-lowering medication? So what have they done to reduce heart disease? Well, done quite a bit. Number one, they've told people to stop butter and start eating margarine to reduce heart disease. Has that reduced heart disease? Not at all. And what's the definition of insanity? To do what you've always done and expect different results. Your body knows butter. It doesn't know margarine. It's a toxic fat. Am I suggesting you eat butter? No, I'm not, because the cows aren't in a healthy state. And in the butter and the cream, you get a concentration of all the drugs they're on. You've got avocado. What does some people call that? God's butter. Or you can spread coconut oil. But when you don't eat bread, you don't even need such stuff, yeah? No, that hasn't helped. So from about the 80s, they've told everything to reduce so everybody's got to go on a low-fat diet, yeah? Has that reduced heart disease? Not at all. Not at all. There's more. They've put many people, definitely over the age of 50, on the cholesterol-lowering meds. Surely that's helped. Not at all. Not at all. So they've done something else. They've changed the figures. When I was in Alabama 2 years ago, at a health retreat that we run there, a nutritionist did our program. She said, I have the advantage of being in university 40 years ago, studying nutrition. And she said, 40 years ago, we were told that a cholesterol level of 300 or under was perfectly normal. Now, in Australian standards, that would be, and I think it's the same as yours, that would be about 7.5 cholesterol. So if someone has 7.5 cholesterol, what are they told? You can have a heart attack. That's too high. But 40 years ago, it wasn't. It was normal. So what they've done is they've lowered the figures. Now, they say anything only under 200 is safe. Above 200, you'll have a heart attack. But it was safe 40 years ago. So why isn't it safe today? What's that in Australian, and I think your levels? That's 5.5. One pharmacist who did our program, she said, we were told, and a circular went round, that anyone with a cholesterol level above 3.5 has to go on cholesterol-lowering medication. Whew. If you go under 3, the brain doesn't work properly, and that person can get depressed and even suicidal. Low cholesterol levels are dangerous because cholesterol is used by our body to protect our nerve cells. You see, that is mostly cholesterol. And what eats away at that is mercury, chemicals. We need the fat to protect our brain cells. If someone's on a fat-free diet and cholesterol-lowering medication with a mouthful of mercury and eating fish every day, that's a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe for Alzheimer's, dementia. Our brain needs that fat. So they've lowered the levels. Well, surely that has helped reduce heart disease. Not at all. In fact, it was only 5 months ago, front page of one of the common newspapers in Australia was all black. And in white writing it had serial killer. This is S-E-R-I-A-L. Serial killer. 51 victims a day. You open the page, heart disease. 51 victims a day in Australia? 51 people a day are dying from heart disease. And this is not helping. It was the number one killer 30 years ago. It's still the number one killer. In fact, we say in Australia they're barking up the wrong tree, yeah? It's not helping. But we see people helped. We see arteries cleaned out. How do you know the arteries are cleaning out? Because the person's not breathless anymore. They're starting to breathe deeper. The Bible says, keep the heart with all diligence, because out of it are the issues of life. How do you keep the heart with all diligence? This is how you keep the heart with all diligence. You take these things which naturally thin the blood. You have a nutritious diet. You stop the things that are harming it. And you exercise every day. So number 4, exercise. And the exercise that is the most powerful is the high-intensity interval training. And as the name implies, these are intervals of high intensity. So what's your high intensity? It's running for your life. Walking up a very steep hill, getting on the exercise bike and going for your life. Push-ups. Anything that will get the heart rate up. It's often called cardio, yeah? Now the good news is you only have to do 30 seconds of that high intensity and then a recovery time of approximately 90 seconds. That's a minute and a half. And it's usually done for a cycle of 6. So what's that? That's about 15 minutes. 15 minutes a day. Everyone has 15 minutes a day. It's not negotiable. If you want a strong heart, you've got to do this. Our exercise coordinator, his name is Howard. I think he's about 55. He looks 38. Guests are shocked when they find out how old he is. His body looks like a 20-year-old. And every day he rides his bike to work. It's a few kilometres, and we've got hills like this, and he rides up the hill, wakes up the guests, then he goes on the exercise with them, where they do a 1 hour, and they do the high intensity, up and down the hills, those who are able. And then he goes home and exercises with his wife, and then he massages all morning. That can be hard work. Our massage therapists massage like this, so they're massaging from their thighs. You can massage all day if you massage like that. You can't massage long if you go like that. Then he takes a Pilates class with our guests to show them how to strengthen the core muscles. The strength of the body can be determined by the strength of the core. And then he chops wood, because we have a steam sauna down by the creek. And so he chops wood to put into the steam sauna. And then for fun, about 3 nights a week, after work, which he gets off probably 6 o'clock, He goes on a 20k bike ride. Howard's worked with us for, I think he's been with us 18 years now. He's always the same. His wife and he work with us, and they're two boys. And I say to the guests, you want to look like Howard? You want to be as happy as Howard? He's always the same. You want to be as fit and as healthy as Howard? Guess what you've got to do? You've got to live like Howard. This is not genetics. Howard's resting heart rate is 46 beats per minute. So he's going to live a long life. It is said we only have so many heartbeats in a lifetime. So the slower your heart rate, the longer you're going to live. So this is a very important part of keeping the heart with all diligence. So exercise is vital, and I'm sure you're not surprised to hear me or to see me say, sleep. How many hours? 8 hours every night. While you're sleeping, your body detoxes. While you're sleeping, there's like a vacuum cleaner process happens in your brain. While you're sleeping, your body recharges. It revives. Healing increases while you're sleeping. Many people aren't healing today because they don't sleep enough. And they don't sleep enough because of technology. So limit your technology exposure, especially at night. We love it. I love it because I can WhatsApp my husband and my daughter and find out what's happening, but not while you should be sleeping. Sleeping was never a problem before electric lights came on the scene, but it's become an incredible problem since technology came on the scene. You drive through the town at 10 o'clock at night, and I challenge you, find a house that's dark. And there's this blue glow coming out of most lounge rooms, is that right? So that's a very important part of bringing health to the body. So keep the heart with all diligence. Make sure that it's well hydrated. There's your water. Make sure it's well nourished. Make sure you've stopped anything that's going in that will harm it. Make sure you move it every day. Move it every day. The type of high intensity you do has got to be what suits you. Most of the research has been done on an exercise bike because people that are unstable on their feet can hold on. And they go very, very fast, and then their recovery is going slow. If your recovery time takes 5 minutes, that's all right, because Rome wasn't built in a day. Your recovery time is your indicator of fitness. The fitter you are, the less time you will take to recover. I don't know if you can get them here, but in Australia we get little mini trampolines. They're very handy because everyone can do that. And you run on the little mini trampoline, you'll get very high intensity. And if you have any kids visit, where are they? On the trampoline. I've come to the conclusion that people get old because they stop jumping. We've got to jump for joy every day. So keep the heart with all diligence, because out of it are the issues of life. And the Bible says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies living sacrifices, holy and acceptable to God. It's a reasonable service because we are the winner when we live in a body that works. So please look after your heart. If you implement what I have shown you tonight, do you know what that means? No one in this room need ever have a heart attack or a stroke. That's good news, isn't it? And they're going to investigate what happened at this church in Mandeville. That these people are living so well. That is the most powerful thing that you can do. That's the testimony that this world needs, isn't it? It's a message of a body that works. So thank you for your attention tonight. I'll handle over to my colleagues, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Thank you.
Yes, and good afternoon, brothers and sisters. So once again, some very important information imparted in a very simple form, and I really appreciate it, Sister Barbara. Tonight we looked at diabetes and heart health, and tomorrow we'll have one more presentation, followed by a question and answer session. So please remember to put your questions in the box, and so that we can field them tomorrow night. Tomorrow we will speak about, the topic will be on the hormones. So just want to recap quickly, what are some of the key points to take home? We eat a diet that is low in carbohydrates with generous, healthy fats, high in fiber with high intensity, once a week, every day, and we sleep 2 hours per night, 8 hours per night. Stop the chemicals. Eat breakfast like a, eat lunch like a, and supper like a. You're very good students. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you tomorrow night.